while, isn't it? Why is it taking it so long? I mean, I know you have to wait for the protocol, IBF and all the rest of it, but in an ideal world, I'm sure from a promoter's view, it would have been sorted a lot sooner.
Yeah, I think you had a situation there where the actual mandatory wasn't ordered till December the 31st, and James DeGale became mandatory on May the 31st. So there was a lot of waiting. You know, Carl Froch could have had a voluntary in that time. The fact was, after the huge event at Wembley, he never really got his head around it, and nothing really came up to interest him. So on the 31st of December, the letters went out, negotiations started. They never really got off the ground because Carl Froch wanted to fight Chavez. He was going to fight Chavez. He picked up an injury. That didn't happen. He looked at his options. James DeGale wasn't one. He vacated the title. And now James finally gets his shot at the world title. But I feel like the 6 months James has had, one, he boxed fantastically in front of 80,000 people against Brandon Gonzalez. And again, he boxed fantastically in front of 11,000 people against Peribin. And I feel like his profile has gone through the roof. I feel like now people believe that he is a top fighter in the 168-pound division. So, and he made a few quid as well. So I don't feel too bad. But I think it's nice now to get clarity on where we're going. And now, you know, negotiations start with the next available contender.
I know you have to keep it quite PC, but from a promoter's point of view, surely that was the fight, Froch, DeGale. You're disappointed you couldn't make it?
Yeah, it's difficult because it's a great fight. It's an all-British fight. It was definitely looked at. We looked at the numbers. You know, obviously James DeGale's a client. Carl Froch is a client. You know, it's one of those. Yeah. The basic reality is that Carl Froch is a fighter who relies on heart, desire and hunger. And if he hasn't got those going into a fight, he's really not the same fighter. And I think he knows, because of the mistakes he made against Groves in the first fight, he wouldn't have had that against James. By the way, he also knows James is a brilliant fighter. But I think if he's going to fight again, and there's no guarantee, he's got to have one of those fights that really flicks the switches and, you know, gets his juices flowing. And, you know, that could be James down the line. But at the moment, it wasn't then. And you know, although obviously I've had Ambrose in my ear and James in my ear, I kind of also believe that Carl's also earned the right to decide who he fights. I still think it would have been a great fight, maybe one for the future, but it wasn't there, it wasn't happening, and now we've got the clarity, and now James can go on and win that belt.
If Wembley and the whole 80,000 people that descended upon the stadium for that, you know, magnificent occasion last year was a defining point for you, if James achieves this on your watch, i.e. becomes the first man in British history, you know, to win a world title after, would that be another defining moment for you?
Sure, and I think because it can lead to so many different things. Wembley was, you know, possibly a freak show. We don't know yet until we go back. And that's one of the reasons I like the Andre Dirrell fight, because I feel like that is a pure fight for the world title. Like, if he beats Andre Dirrell, he deserves everything, because Andre Dirrell's a quality fighter. So sometimes you actually, and I think he's got the same mentality now. He doesn't want to be given it. He doesn't want to fight Joe Bloggs for the vacant title and everyone goes, well, you know. And I think that's what appeals about Dirrell, is that he's a quality performer. So, you know, to present James with those opportunities, and I think when James come to us, James is one of those fighters where his mojo's got to be firing. Like, if he's not up for it and he's not buzzing, then he's just not the same fighter. Like, when he was walking out in front of 500 or 600 people in a shopping centre, his mojo was on the floor and his performances showed that. All of a sudden he comes to Wembley, that's what he's about, you know, and he'll raise his game in those kind of situations. So I really feel like what's happened to him, even over 6 months, has got him back to where he should be. And it will be very pleasing to see him win the world title, and I believe he will. All of those guys, you know, ranked, I think he's the favourite against all of them. But there are a lot of tough fights in there, but so there should be.
I mean, like you said, when you get to the sharp end, so there should be.
Yeah.
When he does win the title, how many fights do you see him continuing for after that? It's been a long road up until this point, and he's earned all his dues. How many fights does he have after?
Well, a lot, because he hasn't yet reached the financial levels that he's capable of, and they're scary. You know, we've seen them in the division already over here. So the huge British super fights, there's massive financial opportunities for him, and I hate to go on about financial opportunities, but I'm sorry, that's what it's all about for these fighters. Of course they want to win world titles, they want to achieve their dreams, but also they want to get paid. And although he's earned a lot of money over his career, he's never had the super fights that have generated those kind of crazy revenues that we see from pay-per-view events. And he's that well known. He's got that kind of profile that he's ready to step in to the pay-per-view zone, if you like. And again, going back to pay-per-view, but that's the golden chalice for any fighter. It's not, there's no point making it a secret. Every fighter wants to be a pay-per-view fighter. He's got the profile and the ability to make that happen.
What obviously you mentioned the pay-per-view, but what constitutes the big one for him if he does, come through the next fight successfully? How would you like to market that as well? And give me the picture. I mean, where does he go? Is it a Wembley?
Yeah, I think so. Listen, I like Arsenal because he's a huge Arsenal fan. The Groves fight is always one that's going to appeal to a lot of people.
Would you like to make that next idea?
I'd love to make it next. I'd love to make it tomorrow, but it's very frustrating, and I just like to apply common sense. These things, they don't need to be complicated. You just got to just sit down, just even write it down on a piece of paper and just think, and things will get done. But unfortunately, when you're in a fight like potential fight between these two, who again can't stand, I had the same thing with Carl Froch against George Graves, can't stand each other. Well, this is even worse. So, but the fact remains is that if this fight gets made for the IBF title between those two, the rules are quite simple. It's a 50-50 split. The IBF already notify you of that. So he wants 65-30. I mean, it's just madness. Now, you've got a chance here to fight James DeGale for the IBF world title at the O2, the guy you've already beat, for 10 times that of fighting Andre Dirrell, which might not ever happen, or might happen in September, October, in America. What is there to think about? I don't understand. And don't give me the, but if I beat Andre Dirrell and then he beats Andre Dirrell, and if my auntie was my uncle, it's like, and then what happens? One wins, one doesn't. They don't make the fight because he wants 80%, he wants 20%, or they both win, and they think one had a better win than the other, and it's not 50-50. It's like, it just goes on and on and on. I like to get it made now because you never know down the line, But again, it's not our call on that. He'd fight anyone.
If forget James DeGale aside, if the year went perfectly for you, fighters always give us their goals, ambitions for the year, but you as a promoter, if it went perfectly, what would you achieve?
Well, I want to make the biggest fights. I want to, and you look at there's a few standout fights that I feel, obviously him against George is one of them. I want to see Froch in another super fight. I want to see that in Vegas or even outdoors in Nottingham. I think that would be a great event for him. I want to see Kell Brook against Amir Khan badly. It's the same sort of thing, You never get a chance, it's like fighters will come out and say, I'm not having 50-50, I'm not having this, I'm not having that. It's like, all right, well, what do you want? Tell me what you want. But you don't even, Amir's like, he won't even entertain the discussion. So, and I think that Amir Khan is afraid to lose to Kell Brook. I don't think he's afraid of Kell Brook, because I don't think that's in a fighter's makeup. But if he loses to Kell Brook, he's done.
The value of the stock.
He's done. If he loses to Floyd Mayweather or Pacquiao, he can go and fight Kell Brook. And it's a bit like Groves. If Groves loses to Dirrell, he can come back, he can fight James. But these crunch, you've got to back yourself. If you really believe you can beat Kell Brook and you're going to make $5-6 million for doing so, you've got to do it. Unless I'm getting something wrong, which I don't know if I am, but I'm kind of doing things okay at the moment, so I like to think I know what I'm doing. But unless I'm really getting things wrong, George Groves, fight James DeGale, a couple of million, or fight Andre Dirrell for a couple of 100,000 in America, no control, might not ever happen, or just do it in the O2, where the same venue you already beat him in, for a genuine world title. And then I want to go out and I want to go my own way. What's that all about? What is your own way?
Ambrose says he's a bit deluded.
Well, Ambrose might have hit the nail on the head.
Listen, thanks for your time.
Right, mate.
Appreciate it,
Cheers.
Cheers.